Hello, hi. In this video tutorial, I wanted to show you how it's possible to set up a connection to an EC2 server on Amazon Web Services using the standard university setup. So I'm here on a university's standard Windows 10 machine. So we're going to need various bits and pieces for this. First of all, you're going to need an AWS account. You should have had an email inviting you to join up on the Educate AWS setup that we've got here at Hallam. You're also going to need FileZilla and Putty. I'll show you where to get those and how to use those. And optionally, you'll need an editor. Okay, so the general aim is that what we're going to do is we're going to create a fairly standard LAMP stack. So that's going to be a Linux server with Apache web server software on it, MySQL as our database, and PHP as our server-side script. Setting this kind of server up will hopefully be useful for you in your second year here, and we are going to do this using a feature on Amazon known as an EC2, which is an Elastic Computer Cloud. So what you need to do is get yourselves over to Amazon Web Services, like so, and then get yourself signed in with the credentials that hopefully you've been received via email. I'll let you do that and I'll catch up in a second. Okay, so here we go. Here's the Amazon console login. We sign on in and that takes us to AWS Management Console. There's loads of stuff in here. If you look under services, you'll find a daunting list of stuff. Everything from Internet of Things to Alexa to database services to AR, virtual reality, machine learning, lots of great stuff in there. We're going to start with the EC2, which is probably the most famous of the Amazon Web Services services. So when we click into there, as a new user of this, you won't have anything running in here, so there should be no running instances. And what we're going to do is we need to create ourselves an instance. So we're going to launch an instance from here. So an instance is a copy of a server that's already been set up and what's known as imaged. And what we can do is, if you like, clone a copy of that to create our own server, which will sit on its own IP address that you'll have full control of to manipulate and do whatever you like with. And you can spin these things up, as it's called. You can switch them off when you finish with them and throw them away. So it's a great environment for learning and experimenting with these kind of technologies. So we want a Linux server, as mentioned earlier. We're not going to pick that top one. It's the second one here, an Amazon Linux AMI server. And you'll see that it's got PHP, MySQL, and various other bits and pieces on there. So that's perfect for our purposes here. So that's the one that we're going to select. And conveniently, that's part of the free tier. So that means it's not going to cost us anything. You will have a credit on your student account anyway. So I'm going to click through a number of windows here. There's one or two places where we will need to change some of the default settings, but we can largely accept the defaults. So first of all, it's for free tier, it creates a T2 micro, so we're not going to get much processing power here, which is fine because we're just using this for development purposes. When you move to production, you can be upping the processor power to a medium or a large, but micro is perfect for us. So we'll click through configure instant details next. Everything there is fine as well, so we can click through to add storage. The only thing of interest that you might come back to later on here is what's known as the IAM, which is where you can apply different roles to different services, but we'll leave that for now. Let's add storage. Again, we're just going to accept the defaults here. There's nothing for us to change. So we'll click next to add tags. Nothing here. Then through to the configured security group. Now this is where we will need to add some additional features. Now You shouldn't have any security groups listed. I've got some in from previous work, so you're going to have to create yourself a new security group. So give it a name. Let's call it something like My Shoe Group. My Security Group. And you can put some description in there if you wanted. And then it's got SSH. We'll see that later on. We're going to need that to connect up to our server to manipulate it. So we'll leave that. Let's add another rule in. This we want, because it's going to be a web server, we want HTTP. It selects port 80, which is perfect. We can just put a description in there. So that's going to be web access. Let's stick another rule. We may later want HTTPS for SSL. So it's up 443 as a port. So let's put SSL. There's a description. And that looked good. That's all I need there. So we'll review and launch that. So that's looking fine. Happy with that. It does duplicate these. I'm not sure quite why, but it's not a problem. So we'll now launch this. Now this is a bit where we have to be careful. So at this point, we have to create what's known as a key pair. Now this is how Amazon controls the security access to our server. So you're going to get a one-off opportunity here to create a key pair that you can then save. Now you can create multiple key pairs within AWS, that's not a problem, but this is the only chance that you'll get to save this particular one that you are associating to this particular server. Once you've got one set up, you can choose to use that existing one, but we haven't got one just yet, so we're going to create a new key pair. So I'll give it a name. I'll just call it My Shoe Key. And we're going to download this. It's going to download this as what's known as a PEM file. So this is a one-off opportunity to download it. So do download it somewhere where you're going to be able to retrieve it later on. So I'm going to download that. I only had one, of course, from an earlier test. So let's call it My New Shoe Key, and I'll download that. And I'm downloading it and I'm going to store it in this folder I've created called My Keys. So you're saving this somewhere where we'll be able to find it later. And I'm saving it as a PEM file, so we'll save that. And we're good, right? So we could just check that that's there if you want to. So there's the PEM file, that's good, it's only a tiny file, but we'll need that definitely. And we're now ready to launch our instance. So what's happening now is that in the cloud, this mythical cloud, Amazon are very kindly setting up a web server for you. If we go and view instances, you can see that initializing server. It's pending there, it's dialing away. Not much that we can do at the moment. One thing that we can do is you can click on this little pencil icon. So you can give this a name, my first server, something like that. You can remember later on. So you very quickly end up with lots of these because they're so easy to switch on. And click tick. And we'll wait till that server sets up and then we'll be able to communicate with it. While we're viewing this, it's useful to note you can see that it's got an IP address down here and it's got a public DNS. Both of these we'll need later on for connecting to our server. Okay, so now our server is running, which is great, so we need to connect to it. Now, if you dug around in the Amazon documentation, those obviously tell you how to connect up, and so we've got a section here connecting to your Linux instance, and they focus here on connecting with SSH, which you can do very easily on a terminal on a Mac, and with Windows using something called Putty. So we're obviously on a Windows machine here, so that's what I'm going to show you to use. What we're going to do that's slightly different to their route here, though, is they use something called PuttyGen, which to set up the key, to convert the key. I'm going to show you how you can do that via FileZilla before we get to PuttyGen. So the tool that we're going to start off with first is FileZilla. So you will find that on Apps Anywhere. So there's FileZilla. I'll launch that up. It's a standard FTP client for doing a file transfer. A file transfer protocol is what FTP stands for, to connect up to a web server. So we'll open up like this. Now, if you've used FTP before, you'll know that if you can go into File, Site Manager, you can set up the name of a connection. Let me delete that out and we'll start from scratch. So you could create a new site. You'd need the host name. Now the host name would be on our console. It would be this public DNS here. So I could copy that. I could paste that into there. I want to make what's known as an SFTP connection. It would be normal. The user would be EC2 user. Password I'll just leave blank, so you might be asking yourself, where is the password going to come from? So this is going to fail. Let's show you. If I try and connect there, it's going to try, but it's going to fail. So it's mentioning something about a key there, wanting a key. So we've missed a step out there. We need to create a key. So let's show you how we can do that in FileZilla. So if you go to Edit, go to Settings, it takes you to Settings here, and there's SFTP, and here's the option to add a key file. That's the key file that we downloaded from Amazon. So I'm going to select that. There's my key. It's currently a PEM file, notice. So when I open that, FileZilla is going to say, well, hold on, I would really like a PPK file. Can I convert that for you? So we'll say yes. Let's give it a suitable name. I'll give it a name to match. Let's just see what we've got in there already. So let's just call it my shoe key. And this needs to be PPK, Putty private key file, and we'll save that. Great, we can see that's attached. We can click OK. Right, now let's revert back up to here. If we go to File, Site Manager, there's our DNS, there's our EC2 user. Let's try connecting, and this time we've connected because we've attached the key in the background. If I show you my file structure, there is the PPK that we've just created for the purposes of the connection. Now it's that PPK file that we're going to need in Putty, which is the next task to allow us to connect via SSH to our server. So we'll do that next. Okay, so we can FTP in, but it's not really that useful unless we can SSH in, where we can configure the server. This is just moving about. It's about moving files, which is pointless until we've done a bit more configuration. So next up, we need Putty. Now, Putty is on Apps Anywhere. If you do a little search for it, here it is. Putty, we can launch that. Be prepared to be very underwhelmed. It has launched, and it is this thing here. Very impressive. Okay, so, but this is really essential for us to be able to manipulate our EC2. So once we connect it up, what we want to do is SSH in. That's what it's defaulting to. So you'll see under connection, there's SSH. We need to attach our key to this. So you have auth, and then you've got private key file for authentication. If you browse, we are picking up, yes, that's right, the PPK file that we created earlier via FileZilla. So let's choose that. Then scroll up to the top, we want to pick session. We want our host name or IP address. So from our dashboard in Amazon Web Services, we could use the IP address this time. Let's copy that to the clipboard. And then in Putty, let's add that in there. You might choose to save this. so, and we can save that so you can easily see this configuration again. And then if we fire this up, we open it, click yes on here. It's prompting me to log in, saying login as, and that will be EC2-user. Hit return, and we've now logged in to our server. So next up, we're going to throw some commands in here to configure PHP as we would like it for our assignment. So in our EC2, what you're seeing here is a Linux terminal. There's a list of commands that I've given you in your supporting documentation. I've given you a PDF. You'll find all the instructions that we've been through here. Down at the bottom of there is some standard terminal commands. So there's one, for example, pwd, gives me the current path. So you see I'm currently in a folder called home EC2 user. So we're going to be typing various commands in there. Amongst the other files that I've given you is I've given you a little text file called cheat sheet. So there's a number of fiddly commands we're going to have to put in here against the terminal to get us going, and they're all listed in here to help you. So first of all, we're going to do this one here. We're going to do some sudo yum update to update all the bits and pieces on our server. So I'll copy that from the check file. Now on Windows here, if I just right click, it'll put that in. I don't need to paste or anything. So we can run that. So that's just updating any of the packages that might need updating. Sometimes when you log on to these, it will prompt you to update them straight away. It's not done in this instance. So that's good. Now we're going to run this command here. This is going to install Apache, PHP 7.3, and the MySQL components. So again, I'll copy that, right click on the mouse, it just pops that in for me, hit return, away it goes, installing PHP 7.3 there for me. If you want to just check that it's done that, here I'm using PHP-version. We can see we can see it's not running. PHP-v. There you go. PHP-v. It's not version. I'll amend that. We can see that we've got our PHP 7.3. Let's do that here. There you go. Live editing. And now we can switch the server on. Started. And finally, this command here will make sure that the server gets switched on. The Apache web server gets switched on when the EC2 is switched on. So we'll put that in there as well, and we're good to go. Okay, so what does all that give us? Well, if you go back to your dashboard, there's your public DNS. If you copy that to your clipboard now, take yourself to a new browser tab, and then paste and go. There is your server. So it's running on Apache on your DNS. So we've successfully got a server running. So what we're going to do next is just tweak that around a little bit because we're going to want to move some files across to here. So there's some additional commands. Now we've got the server set up, you'll see that we could change directory to this folder here. If I do a LSLA, there's nothing in there. Let's go back a level, cd ... LSLA. There's our folder structure, CGIB and error HTML. So HTML is that's where our files that we want people to see on our server will live. If I also connect up via FileZilla to that same file structure, so if I go here now to var and then to www and HTML. There's that same file structure, HTML, no index, etc. That's what you're seeing there as well. So that's where we want to place files when we publish to our server. Now currently, you'll see if I try to move a file across to there, it won't let me do that. That's because I'm connected as the EC2 user and I haven't got rights to do that. So I just need to tweak things around a little bit on the server. So that's this group setup commands here. So first of all, these are in the cheat sheet. We're going to amend our group settings. So let's pop this command in here. So we're adding EC2 user to the Apache group. We're going to now exit the server. So we're going to exit the server like so. So and then let's restart it. So if you go across to your EC2, it's currently running there. Click under actions, goes to instant state, and let's just reboot it. So we'll reboot the server. Yes to reboot. And while that's rebooting, we'll come back to that in a second. Okay, we're back. Server's back up and running, but we've lost our Putty connection, so we need to re-establish that. So apps anywhere, so relaunch Putty. Just relaunch down there on the taskbar. Fortunately, we saved our settings from earlier, so we can load those back in. If you fail to do that, you just need your IP address. Your key should already be in. Let's open up. Log in as EC2 user. In we go. A couple more commands to put in. So back to our cheat sheet. Let's just groups first of all. So that's looking good. Let's run this to attach our EC2 user to var www. Let's give them the correct rights. These two commands here. So right clicking on the mouse when I'm copying those in. Remember, you don't need to cut and paste. And we're good. Right now, so the way that we can test this is in Visual Studio Code. Here's a little PHP file. Just set up to test the server. This is what we tried to move across before into that HTML folder. Now this time, hopefully, over it goes. There, it's there in this HTML folder. So to view that, if we go to our browser, I've got a browser here somewhere. There it is. So that's our test page. So what we just moved over is this file here called info.php. There it is. Okay, so we can see that that file's running, and that's proving that PHP is running fine on the server as well. So you could start to move your own HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all the rest of it across to your server. This is your server now, so you could FTP files across. There are other techniques to move files. You can, for example, use Git and SSH, but this will certainly work from inside of Shoe. So next thing that we're going to do, you'll notice on the cheat sheet here, is we're going to make sure that MySQL is up and running, and then set up something called phpMyAdmin that will give us all the tools that we need to be able to build a web application. Okay, follow along in the cheat sheet. We're just going to be running these MySQL commands through our terminal. So first of all, we'll just check we've got an installation of MySQL by doing a sudo yum install MySQL server. Off it goes. Is that okay? Yes, it is. And away it goes and installs all those bits and pieces. Complete. Great. Super fast. Right. Now, let's set this up so it will switch on automatically. when we restart the server, which is that command there, and then let's actually start up MySQL as well. So that's running. So that's running away in the background now, which is great. Now that's a default installation. It's not very secure, so you'd be advised to run this command here to secure it. It's going to ask us a series of questions. It's going to ask you to create a password, a root password. So you're going to need to remember that. So let's be prepared to remember a password as you run through this next little sequence. So let's run that command. Off we go. It's going to ask us a series of questions. Enter the current password for root. There isn't one, so we just enter. Do we want to set a root password? Yes, we do. Let's create the password. Retype it. Remove anonymous users. Yes. Disallow root login remotely. Yes. Remove the test database and access to it. Yes. Reload the privilege tables. Yes. That's it. We're done. Okay. So hopefully you remembered your password. So we'll now set up phpMyAdmin. So we're going to just make sure that we're in the right folder. pwd, we're in var www.html, that's where we want to store phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is a web-based tool allowing me to administer that database. So we're going to get the latest copy. So I'm copying that from the cheat sheet, the wget. Let's grab those files. I think we're all done. And then we'll unzip those. So using tar. So let's copy that. They're all nicely unzipped. Now, if I do an ls/la, you'll see it's created this folder here called php 4.1001, which is the latest copy. I just go across to our friend FileZilla. Just refresh over here. You'll see there's that folder. So that's going to be a silly long name. We want to shorten that. So I'm going to do that by doing a terminal command of mv move, which is the same as rename. So we're renaming that as phpMyAdmin rather than this big long name. So if you do this at some stage after this where there's a later version, just be aware that these numbers might need changing to what you've got there. But that in the cheat sheet at the moment is good for me. And if we refresh over here, there we go. And if we do an ls over here, ls/la, there it is. And you could choose to remove the zip, the tar file. We're done with that. Great. So I've now got a folder called phpMyAdmin. So I need to put that in. Should hopefully. There we go. So our username is root and our password is whatever you set it up to be. And you can see that we are now in to this thing here called phpMyAdmin. It's not very exciting, but this will give us the ability to create databases, store lots of data in, and then connect to it. So you've probably heard of the phpMySQL. Well, this is the MySQL bit of it where we can control our data. So we're all set up, ready to start writing web applications. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much.